In this video, we look at another statement that up until recently wasn't available to the public. It's the statement of Sarah Earp, who on the Wednesday the 6th of December 95 possibly saw Darren Nichols sat in the Passat waiting for the call from Jack Womes to come and collect him and Michael Steele from Workhouse Lane after the shooting of Pat Tate, Tony Tucker and Craig Rolfe in the blue metallic Range Rover. Or in fact, it may not have been a VW Passat at all. First, the statement of Sarah Louise Earp from the 23rd of the 9th, 1996. I live at the address Overleaf with my family, which is my parents and sisters. I've been asked by DC 744 Brown with regards to the Retterdon murders, which happened on Wednesday the 6th of December 1995 and Thursday the 7th of December 95. Specifically about a beige VW Passat. I can say that on Wednesday the 6th of December 95 I was attending my college, which is the South East Essex College of Arts and Technology of London Road, Southend. I would have finished about 5:30 that day, and it may have been earlier, as I caught the bus to my home, which leaves Southend at 17:30. The journey to Retterdon takes about an hour to an hour and a quarter. The bus stop is by Oak Dean Stores at the top of Retterdon Hill. I got off the bus and walked along the main road to Meadow Road. I believe I recall a beige coloured car similar to a Vauxhall Astra but slightly more squared off, and a white Ford Fiesta old type. The beige car was parked closest to the main road, outside number 2A, and the white car was parked outside 2A and 2 and behind the beige car. I did not see anyone in the cars. I recall these facts as about the time there was a lot of problems with people parking in the road and causing problems. I can also recall that night was very cold and dark, and that on the Thursday it snowed quite heavily, and I believe this was the first snow of last year. Well, to start off, some of the things that stick out in his statement is that she doesn't even mention seeing an actual VW Passat. What she does mention is seeing a car similar to a Vauxhall Astra, but slightly more squared off. Now, as you can see from the picture, she may have just mistook this, what she foresaw as a Vauxhall Astra, for Passat Estate. That was what it was described by Nichols in other documents. But if this is Darren Nichols waiting for the call from Jack Womes, where is Darren Nichols? As heard in a statement, the cars were empty. And according to Darren Nichols, he stayed in his vehicle, and then when he got the call from Jack Womes, he drove down to collect him from Workhouse Lane and Michael Steele. Also, what's interesting is this statement isn't taken until 10 months after the murders, and Sarah Earp remembers distinctly this beige vehicle outside of her house, even though she mentions within this statement they were having problems with vehicles parking in the road. And also there is another connection to this statement that's quite interesting. As mentioned in the CCRC report, that Michael Steele asserts that DC Brown influenced her evidence by mentioning the features of the car. What's actually said in the CCR report is that applicants argue that the evidence given by Sarah Earp was inconsistent with that of Mr. Nichols, specifically with regard to her observation of a parked VW Passat. That Michael Steele asserts that DC Brown, the interviewing officer who took Mrs. Earp's statement, influenced her evidence by mentioning the features of the car. The Commission has examined Mrs. Earp's statement and transcripts of her evidence at trial. The Commission observes that her evidence was subject to detailed and extensive cross-examination by defence counsel. Consequently, the jury were aware of the disparity between her evidence and that of Mr. Nichols. Moreover, it was highlighted that she had not seen any driver present in the parked vehicle, despite the car being illuminated by nearby lights. The Commission therefore takes the view that this argument is not new. It could not form the basis of a reference back to the Court of Appeal in that matter. So with the vehicle being empty, where is Darren Nichols? According to Darren, he never leaves his car. This is what Darren said after dropping off Jack Womes at the lane. He asked Jack how long he was going to be and asked if he could go to the pub to have a beer. Womes said, "No, won't be long, just wait for me to phone you." Nichols drove off further down the A130. We went past a pub he knew with a pink Morris Minor outside. He turned right towards Chelmsford and continued along the road past the pub, went way past it and turned into the first place you could turn and came back up the A130. He did a U-turn and came back to the pub. He parked on the edge of the car park and checked his telephone, checking he had a good signal to receive a phone call. There is a visual image on his mobile phone in which the more dots there is, the stronger the signal. He had a very poor signal and he decided to drive back up that A130 past where he dropped Jack. He drove past the place where he dropped Jack, went up the hill into the village, took his first left, which went into Meadow Road, left again and turned around there and then parked on the left side, coming back as close to the A130 as he could. He checked the signal strength again and he had a good signal. He could not remember what he did, but it was not very long, a matter of minutes, that he remained there. He was not at the time sure if they were doing a drug deal or they were just showing where a drug deal was going to take place. Then he got a phone call from Jack. Come and get us. He might have said okay or answered him, but he pulled off, turned right down the A130 towards the lane. He could not turn straight into the lane because behind him and coming towards him there were cars, so he had to wait. Then he turned the car into the track and again turned it round to face towards the road. Now, as described by Nichols, this was the Passat that Darren Nichols was driving on the night of the murders, as according to himself. But then the big question is, where is Darren? So is it in fact Darren Nichols was in the car and was in fact, say, laid back in the vehicle, laid back in his seat? So if Darren Nichols didn't get out for a little walk and isn't in the vehicle, is it possible that Sarah Earp is just mistaken and this wasn't the Passat at all? To be so sure, so long after the actual event. Is it possible that Darren Nichols got out the vehicle and walked to the lane and in fact was some part of the shootings? There is a statement of a man seen walking along the main road wearing a balaclava, probably not describing the build of Darren Nichols, but could this have been Darren on the way back to Meadow Road to collect the car? As you can see from one of Darren Nichols' police interviews with DC Winston and DC Brown, the Passat was in fact an estate vehicle. In his interview with DC Brown and DC Winston, was it a saloon or an estate? No, it was an estate car. It was an estate car. Okay now, hang on. I can't remember if it was a saloon or an estate car. I sound stupid for some reason. I thought it was an estate car, I'm pretty sure. Gary will tell you, I'm not even sure if it's an estate or a saloon car. Alright, we'll check. It is an estate car, definitely an estate car. So by the time Sarah Earp's statement was taken in September 1996, Darren Nichols had already been arrested. So could this be a simple case of the Essex police trying to set the narrative of the Darren Nichols theory, going back and then feeding information to Sarah Earp to help with this narrative? Or in fact, Sarah Earp did see Darren Nichols waiting in the Passat at Meadow Road and couldn't see anyone inside the vehicle because there was no nearby lampposts or if the vehicle was empty. Darren Nichols being of the large size as what we're meant to believe in the past by certain statements and photos we are meant to believe are Darren. Surely Sarah Earp would have seen someone of Darren's size sitting in that vehicle unless it was completely blacked out. It had been snowing and everywhere had a blanket of white. As mentioned earlier, Michael Steele stated that DC Brown, the interviewing officer who took Mrs. Earp's statement, influenced her evidence by mentioning the features of the car. This is the same DC Brown as the interviewing officer of Darren Nichols, which could mean something or could mean absolutely nothing. But in this case, with so many coincidences, could this mean this was Essex police trying to help the narrative of Darren Nichols and the convictions of Jack Worms and Michael Steele for the murders of Pat, Tony and Craig on that cold winter's night back in December 1995. I'll see you on the next one.